Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Municipality of Monroeville's regular council meeting. Today is Tuesday, March 12th, 2013, approximately 7 p.m. If we'd all kindly rise for the Lord's Prayer, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, Sharon, please.
Mayor Arsenko.
Here.
Mr. Erb.
Here.
Dr. Griesbach.
Here.
Mrs. Drumheller.
Here.
Mr. Johns.
Here.
Mrs. Allison.
Here.
Mr. Duncan.
Here.
Mr. Ramsey.
Here.
Mrs. McKinney.
Here.
Mr. Dice.
Here.
Mr. Hugus.
Here.
Mrs. Worksman.
Here.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to do a little bit of a change up on our schedule. We're going to do the swearing in on our police chief. So, Judge, if you will, please.
Raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I, Stephen Robert Pasquarella,
I, Stephen Robert Pasquarella,
do solemnly swear that I will support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States
do solemnly swear that I will support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania,
and the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania,
and that I will discharge the duties as Chief of Police with fidelity.
and I will discharge the duties of Chief of Police with fidelity.
And I do so further swear
And I do so further swear
that I do not advocate, nor am I knowingly a member of any organization
that I do not advocate or am I knowingly a member of any organization
that advocates the overthrow of the government of the United States
that advocates the overthrow of the government of the United States
or of this Commonwealth
or of this Commonwealth
by force or violence or other unconstitutional means,
by force or violence or other unconstitutional means,
or seeking by force or violence to deny other persons their rights
or seeking by force or violence to deny other persons their rights
under the Constitution of the United States or of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
under the Constitution of the United States or the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
And I do swear that I will not so advocate,
And I do swear that I will not so advocate,
nor will I willingly become a member of such organization
nor I willingly become a member of such organization
during the period that I am a member of the Monroeville Police Department.
during the period that I am a member of the Monroeville Police Department.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Chief.
Not in the heart, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, Chief wants to say a few words to everybody, so if we beg your indulgence.
First, thank you, Mayor, Council, Manager, for the honor of serving as the Chief of the Monroeville Police Department. I have been a member of this department since I was 19 years old, which seems like a lifetime because it is. I'd certainly like to thank my family, most of which are seated behind me. Some of them have come as far from Poplar Street. Others drove all the way from Virginia, so thanks, guys, for coming. I'd also like to thank my mother. It's really my only regret that my mother didn't live to see this day. She's always been my inspiration, and my guide, and certainly my biggest fan. So I know she's watching. Real quickly, I'd like to say that a new chief always comes with a new direction. I have two goals right off the bat that I want to get started with. First is moving towards trying to become less of a reactionary police department. Over the years, we've become very reactionary. We get our calls, we go to our calls. We need to get a little bit more proactive and get ahead of these things before they have a chance to happen. It's easy. It's kind of an easy thing to say and not such an easy thing to do. Unfortunately, we have a old department. Our average age is 47, believe it or not. So we have a lot of old dogs, and we're going to try to teach them a couple new tricks. It's not going to work real well, but we'll try. Fortunately, there's some new puppies on the horizon, so maybe we'll get some help. The other thing I want to do is try to look for new and more creative ways with the way we do our business. We do a lot of things because that's the way we've always done them. And it's an opportunity with a new change to maybe take a look at things we've done for 40, 50 years and say, can we do these things more effectively? And I look forward to that challenge. Again, I thank the manager and council. I promise to do the very best job that I can do. To the men and women that serve in the Monroeville Police Department, and to the citizens of Monroeville, the community that I love so much. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
before we begin the public hearing, I'd like to ask Mr. Dice a question, if I could. Mr. Dice, one of the items that we'll be looking at is an ordinance fixing the compensation and benefits of the municipal manager. I am prepared during that, when we do that, and if we also deal with the chief of police benefits and compensation, to remove the education requirement, as it's not required by the charter or by any ordinances for either position, and so I think it's unnecessary. I agree with the people that came and spoke and said that I should not have had it in for Mrs. McKinney to begin with, because it's not a requirement. Would I make that motion as one motion with the ordinance, or would I do it as a separate motion to the ordinance? Or a separate amendment after I make the motion for the ordinance?
I would think that you would make a motion when it's read to amend the specific ordinance that deals with both the manager and the chief, if that's what I hear you saying, to eliminate the education requirement and also eliminate the college
Yeah,
requirement.
it's never been, it's been in every contract that we've had for
Okay.
every manager and every chief of police.
All right.
It's not a requirement of the Home Rule Charter, it's not a requirement of the police, or of the chief's position, although we have had people with those degrees. And so I think that it's unnecessary for the municipality to fund that or to require it, given that.
Okay, so that, I think then procedurally, and that's what you're asking, a procedural
Correct.
question. I believe when number 3 is read, you would make that appropriate motion, and when number 4 is read, you would make that appropriate motion.
Okay.
Anything else, Council?
No, that's all I wanted to ask him.
Steve, you said you were going to leave. You want to wait? Your family can go. We can wait a couple of minutes if you want. Thank you.
Right, yeah. I just want to make sure that give you
Jeff Herbst.
I'll work it.
Yes, sir. Okay. You know what, hey, Joe, we're getting a little bit of feedback.
That's the doors.
Oh, is that maybe because of the doors?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. Okay, right now, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to open up the public hearing on the appointment of the municipal manager. So I'll open it up to the floor for any resident that has any issues or items on this particular subject.
And is this regarding both issues?
No, this is just on the municipal manager,
For the qualifications or appointment, or,
the appointment. This is just for the appointment.
okay, not on
This
qualifications?
is not on qualifications yet. One more time, I'll open it up to, this is on the appointment of the municipal manager. The appointment of the municipal manager.
We should hire her tonight, is that it?
To make her a permanent municipal manager. No, on the qualifications, that'll be coming up on the ordinances.
This is just the appointment.
Right. Again, ladies and gentlemen, this is just for the appointment. Yeah, I thought I stayed public hearing.
You did.
Mayor, what I have is...
Would you state your name and
yeah,
address for the-
Georgiana Woodhall, 4560 Broadway Boulevard.
Thank you.
And I have some minutes that I had pulled up, previous minutes, going back to 1998, that I think might help people understand the Home Rule Charter and procedures and what was done in the past and what we're doing in the future, what we're doing right now.
Does this have to do with the appointment of the municipal manager?
It has to do with the appointment of a municipal manager.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, please.
This is from January 13th of 1998. Mayor Logan called a meeting back into order and read into the record a letter of resignation from Mrs. Mary Ann Naw, manager, in accordance with the terms and conditions of the January 13th, 1998 agreement between the manager and council, effective immediately. Mr. Kotowski duly made a motion to advertise an ordinance to repeal Ordinance 1838, providing for the benefits set forth for the manager upon resignation. Mr. Spillman seconded it. A brief discussion ensued whether or not an ordinance was appropriate. Mr. Canvas advised that with the acceptance of the agreement, the severance and benefits are established, which would not necessitate a repeal of the ordinance. He recommended a motion be made to ratify the execution of the agreement, whereupon Mr. Brown duly made a motion to ratify the execution of the agreement between the municipality of Monroeville and the former manager, Mary Ann Naud, dated January 13th, 1998, with the conditions executed. Mr. Kotowski seconded the motion. Mayor Logan read a statement into the record regarding the manager. He stated that following the general election in November, it became apparent to the newly elected officials a new team was created to lead the municipality of Monroeville. He indicated they felt a key member of the team should be the municipal manager to develop the trust of council, share in the development of a new vision for the community, and create a high-performance culture within the municipal organization. He indicated their quest was to find the best candidate for manager. Mr. Mohan requested that it be made clear who was involved in this process. Mayor Logan answered Mr. Communell, Mr. Brown, Dale, Spillman, and Kotowski, as well as himself. The meeting took place before they were sworn in, so there would be no violation of the Sunshine Act. Mr. Mohan inquired whether the members of council that attended this meeting were bona fide elected officials and received confirmation of successful election by Allegheny County Board of Elections, but only lacked the ceremonial swearing-in formality. Mr. Mohan inquired about the number of people involved in the search before it was narrowed down to this person. Mayor Logan answered there were a couple. Mr. Mohan questioned whether an advertisement was made, and Mayor Logan answered negatively. Further discussion ensued regarding the selection process, and Mr. Mohan was very concerned because he was not included. Mr. Spillman duly made a motion to name Mr. Marshall Bond acting municipal manager pursuant to Section 6 of the Home Rule Charter at $85,000 per year, and Mr. Brown seconded. Mr. Mohan inquired whether council could have the opportunity to discuss the expenditure of taxpayers' dollars for this salary. Mrs. Lynch pointed out it's a $20,000 more than the previous manager. Mr. Spillman rebutted it's only $15,000 more. Mr. Cambest advised that the Home Rule Charter requires that the compensation be established by ordinance, not motion. Furthermore, Mr. Spillman duly made a motion to name Mr. Marshall Bond acting municipal manager pursuant to Section 706 of the Home Rule Charter. Mr. Brown seconded. Mr. Mohan inquired whether all members will be permitted to participate because it has been enacted by ordinance. Mr. Cambest answered affirmatively. Mr. Brown suggested that the acting manager would be compensated as stipulated under the existing salary ordinance. Upon roll call vote, the motion carried with 5 affirmative votes and 2 negative votes. Mr. Mohan and Mrs. Lynch stated respectively their negative votes were because they were not included in the selection process. After further discussion, Mr. Brown stated that Section 701 of the Home Rule Charter, the process for the appointment and hiring of the municipal manager, which requires a hearing and ordinance with advertising. He stated Section 506 requires that the advertising be 10 days and a majority of council must approve the ordinance in order for the manager to be retained. Furthermore, Mr. Brown duly made a motion to advertise for an ordinance to appoint Mr. Marshall Bond under Section 701 of the Home Rule Charter to further set his compensation and to the ordinance to be decided the evening of January the 27th. Upon a roll call vote, the motion carried with 6 affirmative votes and 1 negative, and that was by Mrs. Lynch. I also have the minutes from the January 27th, 1998 public hearing, and it's Section 506. I'd like to read those also. Pursuant to Section 506 of the Home Rule Charter, a proposed ordinance and public hearing notice thereon proposing to appoint Mr. Marshall Bond as manager of the municipality of Monroeville and establishing the compensation and the benefits of the municipal manager pursuant to Section 701 of the Monroeville Home Rule Charter has been duly advertised. Mrs. Lynch pointed out that council should consider the salary ordinance establishing the compensation benefits for the new manager. She felt that since council just received the ordinance this weekend and has not had the opportunity to review it as a whole, she requested it be tabled to the next regular meeting. Upon Mrs. Lynch made a motion to table the ordinance. Mayor Logan advised that this information was available on January 13th, sent a letter on January 20th for input, and Mrs. Lynch said that she was out of town from January 14th to the 25th. To further discussion, Mr. Mohan seconded the motion, and it carried with 6 affirmative votes and 1 negative vote by Mrs. Lynch. And there's some other information in on this. And I would ask, I'm going to give council at the end of the meeting, this is part of the minutes. I'd like to make it part of the minutes for tonight's meeting. And I'm kind of confused. I'm going to come back up later, Mayor, after at the end and speak again as to my concern with all the comments that have been made by the residents and council members themselves. And I would just like to make one comment that Mrs. Lynch and Mr. Mohan came, even though they voted negatively on the 13th and then 1 negative vote, they came up and they represented their constituents, unlike Mr. Duncan, Mr. Johns, and Mr. Griesbach deciding not to attend the meeting. Thank you.
If you haven't signed in, Betsy, please sign in, state your name and address for the record, please.
Hi, my name's Betsy Desmond. I live at 560 Firethorn. I just have a question. Do we have to hire a manager this quick? Or can't we just slow down a minute? Because there's so much fighting amongst everybody, and it looks so bad. Can't we, I mean, Lynette can be the interim manager. Does she need to be hired immediately? Is there a reason for this? Is there something going on that we have to have a permanent manager in without advertising or anything? Do we have to do this right now with all this tension?
Technically, no, but the majority of council has chosen to do that.
We haven't chosen anything, there's been no vote
Well-
yet. I've made
Well, okay,
put an
refrain.
ordinance.
I'll retract.
All
Mr.
I'm
Earth
asking
put
is
in the,
just please, you've been in this situation. You've been in this situation, Diane. When you ask council, slow down a minute. Take a couple weeks, talk about it. Let people, like, absorb this, because I spent 6 hours today, 6 hours with phone calls. And I'm not running for office. And I'm not talking about just Garden City. Please, you'll look so much better if you take a minute, settle down, start working together, get back the way Monroeville used to be. Work together. Don't play this little high school game. I mean, if anything, you worry about the people that are living here that are young, that you want to keep here. You worry about what the young people say. 6 hours. From the minute my husband walked out to the minute he came home after 1:30 for lunch. He said, "Are you still on this telephone?" The only thing I got done was laundry because I could walk and do it. I will show you my phone records. Please, slow down. Not that, I'm not saying she's not qualified. I'm not saying she's not the person. I'm just saying, please, take a minute and slow down. And advertise, do everything right, because if something goes wrong, because you didn't advertise or something, or we end up, she wants to retire or whatever, and we're back paying another $80-some thousand, you're all gonna have to do the blunt. Whether you're in council or not, you will hear from people on the street about doing that if we end up paying again. So you worked 7 months. Now, okay, she's saying she wants a job. Okay, well, put it in a newspaper. You probably won't get anybody because who would work here? But at least you took the time to slow down. That's all I ask.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, this is your time, please. If you haven't signed in, please sign in and state your name and address for the record.
Paul Caleri, 2511 and a half, Haymaker Road. Hey, it's a half. So, Mr. Duncan, Mr. Johns, and Mr. Griesach, I want you to attend every meeting, whether you know it's going to happen or not. You should magically know when this stuff is going to happen. I'm actually coming to appeal to the board, too. And I also have minutes from a meeting from December 3rd, 2009. And kind of like Betsy said, I'm asking that you slow down and make this decision. And actually, I'd like you to take Mr. Erb's advice from that 2009 meeting when he was speaking to council. I think you stated it very well. You suggested if the municipality is going to replace positions, a national search should be done, not just backfill those positions because it's expedient. You suggested the right thing to do would be to take fiduciary responsibility as elected officials seriously for the people of the community. And you were hopeful that the plan is to do the right thing, to grow the community, to make it into a better place where people want to live, to do business, and have developers develop. As you asked the council then, I'm asking you the same thing. Post it nationally. Lynette, you might be great for this job, but we need to see what's out there. We need to look into that field, into that pool, and see what we can find. Lynette's doing a great job as an interim manager. I don't see why, another month, another 2 months, however long it takes to either prove that you made the right choice to begin with, or to see if there's possibly any other solutions out there. To listen to your constituents, to hear what we have to say. Mr. Erb, you made another very good comment in that meeting too. You said about a lot of backdoor meetings and a lot of
Paul, you have to
talking windows meetings. I'm sorry, that other people didn't know about. And it was a very poignant statement. You asserted that the appearance of impropriety is as bad, if not as worse, than actual impropriety, and you felt that the community looked foolish. And I think that's how we look now. So I'm asking all of you to just take a step back. Channel 2, Channel 11, Channel 4 is finally not here for a change, making us look foolish again. So let's take this time to take a deep breath, work as a team, and move on from there. And also, Miss Allison was in that meeting too, the same meeting from December 9th, December 3rd, 2009, I'm sorry. You had a good point. You said that there are rumors circulating because the public and newly elected officials have been kept in the dark, and that's how we all feel right now, that we're all kept in the dark, that we're not in on the 4 of your secrets. And it's making us look bad. It's making us look really bad. You said that decisions are being made behind closed doors, and we think the same thing is happening now because we're none the wiser. That you all suggested that drastic changes like this, and this is a drastic change. This is a good comparison. Will be left to those in charge who will be held accountable with major disruptions without their opinion or the public's opinion. I've been giving my opinion, and it seems to fall on deaf ears. Except Mr. Erb, thank you, about the education thing. That was, I hope that goes through. That was a good choice. Ms. Allison, you also said about making council should quit placing blame, take action by making well-thought-out financial decisions for the long-term survival of the entire community. How that's applicable to this is I'm asking you all to do the same thing. I think that's a great statement. Please come together and make thought-out financial decisions. I mean, you're talking about a large salary raise. Now we're talking about pensions. Now we're talking about the future of Monroeville, that, yeah, it's going to be hard to replace a manager if we force 2 resignations in a year. Ms. Allison, you talked about a deferred comp package in the municipal manager's recommendation municipality savings account, called a deferred comp package. That's in excess of $168,000. I don't know the exact dollar figures, but I think we're over 6 figures in severance packages for the other 2 municipal managers that we forced to resign. So it's the same thing. Everybody just step back, go have a work session, do what you need to do to make some thought-out decisions, to make one good decision for Monroeville and for us. Thank you.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, would anybody again like to address council? This is your time.
Gianna Solszewski, Asbury Court, Monroeville. I've been listening and watching and sitting at meetings and watching them on television, and it appears that there's just a general misunderstanding about transparency and the ability of public officials to adhere to the employment and privacy laws, and for them not being able to discuss things openly. I don't understand, because it appears that when you break for executive session, it's my understanding that, this is a meeting where you have to go in to discuss items that will come forth at some future time. However, because of the nature of the business and involving people, and you do not want to have any distractions to cause any problems for personnel or any major decision in the community. And one thing I don't understand is you all break, you all go into the session. And I keep hearing that, several of you don't know what's going on, and they don't hear things, they don't understand what's going on. And it's difficult for me to understand when seven of you break to go into session and 3 you don't hear or understand. Does that mean that you don't attend the session, that you just leave, or you're leaving the sessions, or it's not being discussed? I don't understand this. And I understand that, I just hear again now about transparency and you're forced to do things and people are forced to resign. I haven't heard this discussion. I didn't think anybody forced anybody to do anything. Things were done at free will. Mr. Dice had said so too. And I just would like to know.
Are we sticking to the manager? Or?
No.
She's already talked, so.
Again, this is on our manager.
I want to ask a question. The things
Did
I
you
have
sign
to,
in?
I already did. The things I have to say in my statement are going to be a moot point if we have to wait till the end of the meeting.
No, you're not. You're going to have public comment just before we get to any of the resolutions or ordinances
Public comments on agenda items
on agenda items.
before them.
Okay.
Sir, she was asking your name for the record.
If you could just state your name, sir.
Jim Rosapel,
Thank you.
Marguerite Drive.
Thank you.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, would anybody else like to address council on the appointment of the municipal manager? Seeing none, is there a motion to close our public hearing?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, Sharon, please.
Mr. Erb?
Aye.
Dr. Griesau?
Aye.
Mrs. Drumheller?
Aye.
Mr. Johns?
Aye.
Mrs. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
Aye.
Mr. Randall?
Aye.
You are here.
And right now, council, we're going to go over our approval of our minutes of our council meeting of January 8th, 2013, our special council meeting of January 23rd, 2013, and the special council meeting of January 30th, 2013. Any further additions or corrections?
Yeah, I just want to make a correction that the special council meeting of January 23rd and the special council meeting of January 30th were not hidden meetings. They were known by all members of council.
Any other questions or comments on these two items, or I should say all three of them, the three meetings? Seeing none, motion on the floor.
Move to approve the minutes as stated.
Second.
Roll call, Sharon, please.
Mr. Ramsey?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
Aye.
Mrs. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Johns?
Aye.
Mrs. Drumheller?
Aye.
Dr. Griesau?
Aye.
Mr. Erb?
Aye.
And moving to our approval of our reports of our tax collections. Once again, council. No further discussion. Motion on the floor.
Motion that we approve the reports of the tax collections.
Second.
Roll call, Sharon, please.
Mr. Erb?
Aye.
Dr. Griesau?
Aye.
Mrs. Drumheller?
Aye.
Mr. Johns?
Aye.
Mrs. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
Aye.
Mr. Ramsey?
Aye.
And moving over to our payroll report. Any further discussion, council? Seeing none, motion on the floor.
Move to approve payroll.
Is there a second? Start a second. Sharon, if you would, please.
Mr. Ramsey?
I don't have anything.
Pardon me?
No, I don't have anything for the,
No, this is on
Approve
payroll.
on payroll.
Approve payroll.
Approved.
Yes. Mr. Duncan?
Aye.
Mrs. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Johns?
Aye.
Mrs. Drumheller?
Aye.
Dr. Griesau?
Aye.
Mr. Erb?
Aye.
And moving to our list of bills, and we'll start off with you, Clarence.
I don't have any bills.
Okay. Steve?
I have nothing tonight, thank you.
Diane?
Yeah, I'd like to request a clarification. On page 33, I believe it's for Provident Agencies for Insurance. It's for the Volunteer Firemen's Accident and Health. When we got our new updates to our budget, the fire companies, through a meeting with Mr. Johns and Mr. Duncan and myself, agreed to give the municipality $100,000. When I looked at the difference in the two budgets, there was still a difference of $40,000. So I asked for a clarification on what that was supposed to be accounted to. One of the things said was accident policy for $40,000, and it's in here to be paid. So is this what we are not supposed to be paying that was supposed to be given to us by the fire companies?
That is correct.
So
It is my understanding that the bill was received in November, and it was processed. And from my understanding from Chief Katofsky, he spoke with Manager Silka, and Manager Silka said that it would be put through for the year of 2013.
And that's what they're supposed to be
That
given
is
through 2013?
exactly correct.
So is that supposed to be removed to be part of that $100,000?
Yes. The only unfortunate thing is it was done as a prepaid, so the company already has the check.
So what do you suggest doing?
Well, we could bill the fire departments for reimbursement.
Yeah, we need to do something, I think, because we're $40,000 short of
And
the
that's
money that
before
they
it-
had agreed.
Yeah, the bill is $33,554.
They estimated it at 40,
Yeah,
and it's
right.
33, so it's off. But that's the amount that's supposed to be that they're supposed to.
That is correct. Even though the invoice was received in 2012.
It's for the coverage year?
It's for the coverage year of 2013.
Which is what they agreed to give.
That is correct.
Yeah, that was $100,000. And in fact, if you take a look at the update to the budget,
The update, that's why I subtracted, and there was
Yeah.
a difference of 60,000, which means 40,000
Yeah.
still. I didn't know where that was supposed to come from, so I asked, and they said for the accident insurance. This says accident insurance, so
So can you take it off a list of bills?
I don't know, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
I don't know what,
Being that it was prepaid, I don't
Since
believe
it's
you can
already
take
been
it
paid, I
off.
would think you'd
So
have to
we can't
bill
do-
the
we
fire.
cannot.
Prior reimbursement situation.
Yeah, it's prior reimbursements, this is just reconciliation.
I think simply, what I would do is go ahead with the list, but I would certainly, does the fire company know that this is due?
Yes, Chief Katofsky actually directed our accounts payable to make the payment.
Okay. So then I would send a statement out to them and ask for some sort of response immediately.
do we make a motion to approve the list of bills with it in it or
I
not?
think you have, the bill's already been paid.
This
So that would
this
keep it
information was
consistent.
from Chief Katowski about where the amount was going to come from to add up to the 100,000. That's correct.
So that's an email? Okay. That's what I would do.
Okay.
Any other?
So do we direct the manager to do that, or she'll just go ahead?
I would suggest that you make the motion and approve it, and then direct the manager to go forward.
That is correct.
And notify the fire company that they're short this 33,000, whatever.
That was all my questions, if you want.
Okay. Jim?
I have none.
Lois?
Yeah, there's just one thing, Mayor. On page 21, the organization, yeah, the IACP, which International Association of Chief of Police, I think I had asked whether or not the membership of $120 is something that, I know it's transferable by prior question, but is it something that needs to be put off and asked for again? Because I don't want to be hard on our new chief, I just need to know whether or not he intends to be a membership, to be a member at that rate. And so until he officially asks for it, I think that probably should come off.
I actually spoke with Chief Pasquarello regarding this membership, if he was going to ask for it to be transferred to his name, and he is not joining this organization.
All right, so that would be reason to make a request to
Withdraw.
remove that item of $120.
Correct.
So
You're making the motion.
I'm making the motion, we do that.
Is there a second to remove that item?
Second.
Roll call, Sharon, please.
Mr. Erb?
Aye.
Dr. Griesbach?
Aye.
Mrs. Drumheller?
Aye.
Mr. Johns?
Aye.
Mrs. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
Aye.
Mr. Ramsey?
Aye.
Lois, anything else?
No, that was all, Mayor.
Nick?
Nothing this evening.
Vern?
Nothing this evening.
Okay, and we'll go over on our budget transfers, and Vern, I'll start off with you, sir.
Nothing this evening.
And we have to make a motion
You
to
have to-
approve
you have to-
the list of bills?
You have to
Oh, I'm
make a
sorry,
motion
well, okay, well, I was gonna do them both together. Okay, well, let's make a motion on the list of bills,
And budget transfer.
I didn't get down to the budget transfers yet. On the list of bills,
The list of bills.
is there a motion?
So moved to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, Sharon, please.
Mr. Ramsey?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
Aye.
Mrs. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Johns?
Aye.
Mrs. Drumheller?
Aye.
Dr. Griesbach?
Aye.
Mr. Erb?
Aye.
Mayor,
No.
can we now direct the manager to go ahead, since we've approved them, to secure the reimbursement for the... Absolutely. Thank you.
Everybody good? All righty. Now we'll move over to our budget transfers, and Vern, you're first up again.
And I still have no questions.
Nick?
No questions.
Lois?
So I think that was answered, that there was an entry error, and Susan answered that one from last time.
Very good. Jim?
Nothing, sir.
Diane?
None.
Nick? Steve?
Nothing.
And Clarence?
Nothing.
And we'll move over to our vacancies. Oh, I'm sorry, we need a motion on the floor. Gee whiz, I'm moving too fast for the budget transfers. Motion to accept.
Move to accept budget transfers.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, Sharon, please.
Mr. Erb?
Yes.
Dr. Griesbach?
Aye.
Mrs. Drumheller?
Aye.
Mr. Johns?
Aye.
Mrs. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
Aye.
Mr. Ramsey?
Aye.
Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize. We're moving quickly because this is like nice for a change. We're not here for 5 hours, so. At any rate, though,
The meeting's not over yet.
we'll move over to our vacancies and our boards, commissions, and authorities.
I have somebody.
Please.
I would like to appoint Debbie Itzok from Ward 1 for Library Board.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Anybody else?
I do, sir. I'd like to appoint Tara Ratuna, hope I'm saying that right, to the Library Board from Ward 4.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any other appointments or
Mayor,
nominations?
I believe-
I'm sorry?
I have Mary Elizabeth Fishman from Ward 5 to the Human Needs and Resource Advisory Board to appoint, please.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Anybody else?
Yes, I also have an appointment to the Convention or Visitors Bureau. It is for the term that expires in December of 2015. Carol Thurston from Comfort
Is
Suites.
there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Any other appointments or nominations, council?
I had one, Mayor.
Sure.
For the Human Needs and Resources Advisory Board, already nominated, so I'd like to appoint Daniel Marston in Ward 3.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Anybody else?
That's all.
Once again, any other appointments or nominations, council? Seeing none, we'll move over to proposals, and Lynette, if you would.
Yes, the municipality received professional engineering service proposals at the request of municipal council on January 31st at 4 o'clock. 17 proposals were received, with one proposal from A&A being disqualified. Attached to council's packet is a spreadsheet. We kind of condensed this one down from last week, so you may need to get your glasses on if you didn't bring your old one. But we are recommending that we stay actually with the company that we are with, but we'll open the floor up for discussion.
Questions or comments on this item before you, and it is very small writing.
That's why I saved my other one. Yes, Mayor, I had a comment. I really wanted to have some more time on this. When it comes to taking a look at the different, the municipal engineering services in general versus the other ones, there's a section there that might cover it, but when it comes to contaminations and environmental issues that are provided, I haven't really had a chance to go through each one to see whether or not they might bring a specialist as a consultant along for those particular issues at any of these. I wish I had the time to do that, but I'd like the time to do that. And, also, some of them may have architectural experts on staff. I've not taken a look to look at that. And reasons being the, compliance with the UCC and for new building plans and whether or not that conforms to code and to make that determination what they've described in each one of their packets. So I haven't looked at any of that, and I'd appreciate a little more time to do that. I don't know if anybody else has had time to look through any of these packets. Has anyone? On council? Because I haven't.
Council, any other questions or?
Is this something that we're supposed to be voting on tonight?
Yes.
So it's something that we should be voting on, I mean, they made a recommendation, but is this, if we're going to vote on it, it's something we should vote on after public comment, I would presume? Like resolutions and ordinances?
I'd actually like to consider postponing any vote on it, so, but I
hear what you're
realize the
saying.
order.
I don't
That's the order.
necessarily agree. I think
But
that
no,
the
but you know, but this
professionals have made a
is normal
recommendation.
procedure that we would do this before
Okay.
the,
I'm just asking.
Oh, yeah, no, but this is normal procedure on the
Okay.
proposals. And then we'll go to the public comment on agenda items, but any other questions or comments?
Was my point taken, though, that I wanted to have some time to actually read through?
I mean, you asked if anybody else on council had an opinion. I think that the professionals have given their recommendation. I think we should move forward with the recommendation personally.
All right.
And I personally agree.
So do I.
Motion on the floor, council.
I'd motion that we move forward
And I
with
second.
the recommendation.
A second.
Roll call, Sharon, please.
Mr. Ramsey?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
Aye.
Mrs. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Johns?
Aye.
Mrs. Drumheller?
No.
Dr. Griesbach?
Aye.
Mr.
Aye.
Okay, before we move over on public or comment on agenda items, I think, Mr. Duncan, you said
No, I'm good.
you're good? Okay. Right now, we'll move.
I'm going to let the people speak.
Okay, okay. Again, we're going to open up for public comment on agenda items. That is any of the resolutions or ordinance before this council. So, once again, This is your time to address council.
Janice Olszewski, Asbury Court, Monroeville. I came up earlier and I was asking, questioning why the qualifications and education of the manager, and I believe Mr. Erb did stipulate that he was going to make an amendment to that motion, I believe, correct?
To the ordinance, yes.
To the ordinance, I'm sorry, yes. And from what I understand, there currently is no educational requirement for the manager, correct? And I understand that many of the municipal employees have been the benefactor of job-related educational reimbursements, such as Chief Polner, Chief Cole, Assistant Chief Pasquarella, Mr. Yugas, Jamie
Chief
Story,
Cole,
and others.
that is not true. He had his.
No, I just said that they enjoyed the educational reimbursements. I didn't say that they got a degree or it was required.
Yes. It was in his contract.
I wasn't talking about his college degree. I was
Let's
just
let
saying
Janice have her say.
that these people enjoyed the ability to get educational courses. I didn't say it was towards a degree, So all of a sudden, this is a big issue, And I've worked in industry and in other fields of employment, and it's very common for reimbursement of educational courses that are job-related. I'm not saying that it's for furthering for a degree. I'm just saying related to it. And since Mr. Duncan was the second highest paid department head in the municipality, what was his level of education and the people that preceded him and currently? And I don't understand why this is all of a sudden coming to be a big thing when we've gone by the Home Rule Charter and honored it in the past up until this time, and now all of a sudden it's something that we have to address again.
Well, the education suspension went into effect December 2010, and that was voted on by the majority of the council, most of the council that are sitting here now.
The suspension, I'm sorry, I didn't understand that.
The suspension of the education and skill development opportunities, degree education program, that was suspended as of January 1st, 2011.
Yes, and I wasn't talking about a degree related, I was just saying educational courses in general.
Oh, education and skill development opportunities.
Yes, sometimes they're required by license laws and those sorts of things. And if it means that somebody is required by their job to maintain a license, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania requires that they take advanced courses
I
and things like that.
understand what you're saying. In order to be a truck driver in Monroeville Public
Yes.
Works, you need a CDL license. You
Correct.
have to have that
Yes.
license, just to be a truck driver.
Sure,
To work on the lights,
correct,
the red lights, you have to have certification.
yes.
So there are, jobs that
Instances-
require certification.
Right, and the reimbursement for those educational requirements that are necessary for those licenses, I believe should be paid for by the municipality
But-
because of it being a
But Mrs.
requirement.
Olszewski, these are,
No, it's Miss.
I'm sorry. Excuse me. Ms. Olszewski, there's two sections, Section 2, there's two separate things. One is reiterating what you're saying as far as that appropriate professional and service organization dues and other expenses incurred in connection with the manager's attendance at any professional conference, courses, or seminars relevant to the manager's duties
Yes.
is paid for.
Yes,
That's a separate issue than what
That
I
is
believe Mr.
correct.
Erb is talking about.
That is
Which is
correct.
Section 2C, which is pursuing the bachelor's degree.
yes,
So there's two separate things, so I think.
I understand
I think
that.
everyone's agreeing with you that we'll pay
We're
for
going to
courses
maintain
and-
that, right.
Yes,
And
but it's
there
the
shouldn't
college
be a-
education that was,
the question, right. And we shouldn't worry about, if things are necessary and they're related to their job and they can do a better job for the community, then it's something that we should consider.
but no one's
And we
questioning,
have-
no one's questioning that. though.
Okay, just want to be sure.
If I may weigh in,
Yes,
again, when I asked for the ordinance, I asked for something that was consistent with what we had previously.
right.
What is Section 2C in the proposed ordinance entering into fixing the compensation and benefits of the municipal manager, which is the tuition and expenses to continue post or secondary degree work that she may choose to pursue, providing such course of work is related to the duties and professional development of her office. That was, as Mr. Duncan is saying, at one time, it was a standard allowable benefit that any employee had, and in July of 2010, that was eliminated. And that was by a majority of this council.
Right.
This is a boilerplate language that has appeared in Marshall's, that appeared in
Right.
Chief Polnar's, that appeared in Chief Cole's, that appeared in Assistant Chief Pasquarella's. In fact, it was insisted upon by then-manager Tim Little that that had to be in there, even though we discussed not having that language in there. He insisted that it absolutely had to be in there, and so we put it in there at his behest. And this is boilerplate language. This is what I'm taking out because
Sure.
it is inconsistent with
the home
what we
rule
are trying to do today,
Yes.
which is not provide that benefit. It was an oversight on my part in leaving it in there because it was consistent with the past practices, and rightfully, the public called me out on that. I should have not done what was the past when I'm trying to drive the municipality forward. So this needs to come out. The Home Rule Charter does not require the degree, therefore, this is not something that we should require, and that's why I've removed it.
That's fine.
Well, actually, I haven't removed it. That's why I'm going to
Well, you're
ask to
going to
amend
do the amendments
an
now.
ordinance when.
Just so that the public is clear on that, what is being stipulated.
Excuse me, I have a question on that
Sure.
same thing. I'm a little at loss here. When our webpage, which was put up for Mr. Silk, I believe, is that correct? The webpage that I pulled off the computer
think this is for you.
3/4/13, so it was last week. It says, requirement minimums, a bachelor's degree in public administration and related field. Now, when I say we, the manager, the acting manager at the time had to post this, and this is what Mr. Silka applied for on this webpage. And it required a minimum bachelor's degree, preferred master's degree in public administration or related field. So it seems like we have two standards here. All of a sudden, you say something that past practice, well,
Mr. Duncan, I think that there's a difference between recommendation, which was what was posted, and that
it
was
said
from.
requirement minimums, and it was
Well,
posted.
what you were looking at?
By then, a manager, our manager or acting manager, regardless, posted this.
Yeah, the
The
document.
hiring of a new manager last year.
Yeah, I think the document, even going back to what Marshall Bond was recommending, those were recommendations. And there's a difference between recommendations and the requirements, that if you go into the position description of the job, the actual requirements, I think, is what we were referring to as standard. And so that was not required.
Reading requirement minimums,
Yeah, but there's a difference between those two words, recommendation and requirement.
yeah, there certainly is. Okay.
What, anybody else like to address? If you haven't signed in, sir, please
I
sign in.
already have, Mayor, thank you.
State your name
My
and
name
address
is
for the
Robert
record.
Serafini. I live at 4929 Point Circle Drive. Since we're conversing tonight very nicely, Mr. Ramsey, may I ask you a question, sir?
Sure, go ahead.
You sponsored number one ordinance. How did you base your sponsoring of that ordinance on you? Can you tell me how you came about?
We discussed it in different sessions.
No, I'm asking you, sir.
Well,
It has to be three. Yeah, come on, guy. Direct your questions to
Well,
council.
everybody else was talking to the speaker, and
I know.
I asked Mr. Ramsey, and he said he would. Just because there's some people back here that don't like it, I think they should be the one to be quiet.
I'll have comment on that.
Okay, but I did address Mr. Ramsey, and he did say he would apply.
I don't have any issue. He certainly can answer.
Can you tell me on what basis you sponsored that bill, ordinance tonight?
well, if you're looking for infallibility that I might make, it's no problem. I'm not trying to duck it. Just like a lot of things we can't talk about, and a lot of things we can talk about. Just like, who voted for the Silcott to get in here? Was it the ones that were bad guys that turned everybody down?
No, I'm just asking you.
I know, but I'm asking you a question now.
When Ms. Drumheller did this last month,
You went open a can of worms, I want to.
I'm trying to open it, yes, because
Okay.
I don't approve of this, okay?
Okay.
When she sponsored the bill last month, she came up with some ideas of why she did it.
Right.
It was a cost factor. And she gave some very specific reasons,
Right.
which I think everybody should have
Right.
when they sponsor something.
Right.
And I'm asking you what your specific reasons and your cost factors were.
When we discussed it, I asked questions, and I got enough answers to go with it.
Do you have those to present to this?
No, I don't have them right now because I'm not looking at something like that.
Okay, I'm going to ask you another question.
Go ahead. Wait a minute. If you're looking for me being
No,
stupid
no,
or
no,
something,
this all
is that what you're
relates
trying
to
to
what
do?
I want to say, sir, and
I know. Go ahead and say what you
Okay.
got to say, because I'm going to have some things to
I
ask
think
you.
everyone on this board,
You know, well, I don't want to get argumentative. Why don't you again just maybe
I am
shoot-
very argumentative about this, sir.
Go ahead.
I think everybody on this board tonight, bunch of intelligent people, and when it comes to their taxes, I think most of them seek some tax help. I think no one here, as a general rule, fills out their own tax forms. We all fill out, trying to save the extra buck, okay? I think that's a way of everybody, taxpayer in the whole United States. Now, Ms. McKinney said just the last meeting that if she had the job of overseeing the tax, she would have to hire someone in the office. We already have someone in the office who is doing it, am I correct? Over here in the tax office. So that would just be a transfer of positions. Now-
Excuse me, may I speak there? Sure. I don't think you understood what I said. I didn't say that I would have to hire someone. I said that I would use the 3 people that we already have in the office.
Correct, I understand that, but I said it's a matter of transferring the people from there to under your command.
That is correct.
Okay, I understand that. Now, my understanding is, you do not have a CPA. I don't know what you've been doing a good job as far as I'm concerned. That's not my question. You do not have a CPA. You cannot tell those 3 people what to do when they have a question. You cannot tell me when I have a question. But if you call Mr. Fulkerson over here, I've known him for 40 years, he's a CPA, he knows his job, and I think anybody here who had a tax question would go to him as opposed to coming to someone who doesn't. Everybody on this board, when they have a law question, who do they talk to? Mr. Dice. It's just the way it is. I mean, you want someone who is able to answer your questions with a reasonable and accurate understanding. I said, if you didn't have a question, I hope you would have the intelligence to say, I don't know, I'll have to find out. Mr. Fulkerson already has that. He has the knowledge, he has the degree, and he has the understanding. He's had that for at least 40 years that I know. And he's a very well-qualified man. Now, to just transfer those people and put them under your supervisory capacity, I think is really dumb. I think he has the 3 people over there, he has the knowledge, leave it where it's at. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Would anybody else like to address council?
Okay, Mr. Ramsey had a question. May I ask him what his question was?
Yeah, I want to know, who voted for the manager that walked off?
Sir, we're talking about Mr. Fulkerson now.
Wait a minute, but you're trying to find some infallibilities. I think I want to dig some of them out.
What? Who
Who
voted?
voted for him? Yeah, that's what I want to know. Who voted for him?
Mr. Mayor, I would ask that we don't go down this path.
I would agree.
No, I'm only referring to Mr. Fulkerson.
I know, but I'm only
I haven't
focusing
gotten
on
in
one
any-
other thing that I know.
I haven't gotten on any contest about the former chief. I haven't gotten in about Ms. McKinney. I'm only here about, and if you can address that, fine. She addressed this last meeting, in February rather.
Right.
And she had some factors, cost factors.
Right.
And they're very, very minimal if transferring it over. And they're very minimal, Mayor. And like I said, all I'm saying, if you have a qualified person in there doing the job, overseeing the same 3 people, I think he should remain in the job.
Your point is well
Nothing
taken.
against you. I mean, I'm just saying, you go with the qualifications. And Mr. Fulkerson has the qualifications. He's always had the qualifications. In the 40 years that I've known him, he's never been without an answer when it comes to a tax question. And that's all I'm saying. He is a well-qualified man. And I'm saying, if you're using the same 3 people that he's using over there, and just transferring them into your department, I think that's wrong. I really, really do.
You made your point, Bob. Thank you. Once again, state your name and address for the record.
Paul Clary, 2511 and a half Haymaker Road. Mr. Duncan, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to ask Mr. Duncan a question.
Fire away.
Mr. Duncan read the excerpt from the advertisement for the municipal manager from last year.
That is correct.
And I'm sure I'm not the only one who got confused. Did it say minimum requirements or minimum recommendation for a bachelor's degree?
It stated requirement minimums.
So, to your point, Mr. Drumheller, 'cause we all got a little confused. You kept saying recommendation when the advertisement actually said requirements. So you're right, they are two different words. The advertisement said required, minimum requirement, which means necessary, which recommended means would like you to. I just wanted to clear that up because I'm sure I'm the only one who got confused about that. So I guess my only question, sorry, sir.
Can I say something real quick? During the hiring of the last manager, who's no longer here, I was on that search committee. We had 36 applicants. From them 36 applicants, and I am sure as I'm sitting here, one of the absolute most important things was a degree before we even talked to them.
Okay. Thank you.
For what that's worth.
And that's all, I was trying to clear that up because the back and forth confused me, and I'm sure it confused other people. So my only question to follow that up is, are we willing to take the step back then? Council made a decision to put minimum requirement of a bachelor's degree in the advertisement for the job. Are we willing to forgo? So obviously that was for a reason. Is it for educational reasons? Is it, I don't know. Obviously it's for educational reasons. Is council at this point willing to forgo that and take back, as Mr. Jones, I don't want to misquote you, but a very important piece of that position?
I guess we'll find out when they vote.
I guess we will, sir. Thank you.
You do want to come up too, yeah, right, okay.
Jim
State your name and
Roosevelt,
address. Thank you.
Marguerite Drive, Monroeville. This will be my last appearance here, because it's like banging your head against the wall. First, let me say to everybody, the past couple weeks, I've talked to a lot of people that work in this municipality. They're scared to death. You talk about a hostile environment. They'll tell you right to your face, I will not make a comment because I don't want to lose my job. That's how we've gotten to the point where we are now. It's ridiculous. I worked for this community almost 30 years. I've lived here all my life, and I'm embarrassed when people say, you're from Monroeville, aren't you? Because we've become a laughing stock. Now I'll start to say what I want to say. I'd like to start off tonight by informing Mrs. Drumheller that all Monroeville fire companies are required to have physicals, are required to have drug testing every other year. You made this statement last week. We don't even worry about testing our volunteers or our firemen.
No, that's not true.
Well, I was watching, and I guess
you didn't hear
I'm
right.
out in space somewhere. We'll pull up the tape and let's see what you said, because you sat there and said that. That's why it's here.
This is on agenda items.
I'm sorry,
Yeah, well, there aren't any physical requirement. There are for police, and the point was made that there weren't for fire.
Can we stick with the agenda?
I hope we can.
Agenda
Well, I am
items.
on the agenda. Now to the problems at hand. Last week, our tax, now because we haven't, Mr. Erb hasn't pulled this out yet as far as the degree necessity, I'm going to speak as though it's still in, because it still is until you remove it, which I thank you for. Now that the problem at hand, last week our taxes were raised, and now the felonious for, because of what's being done to the residents, as well as the image of this community as a crime, want to spend more of our tax dollars on out-of-line severance packages, pay increases in college degrees. I don't think so. Use your own personal finances to pay for their education and keep your hands out of our pockets. Or just dump the college requirements, which I thank you for again. It makes sense because you don't need a degree to get appointed to those positions in the first place. So why should we be forced to pay for a degree after you're in there? I want to remind everyone, too, that this past year, Monroeville didn't sponsor a Monroeville Night Out due to money issues. And last year, Mrs. Drumheller wanted to forego the 4th of July parade and fireworks for the same reasons. These have typically been two huge community events that bring us all together to celebrate our country and community. It's apparent that Mrs. Drumheller is not very community-oriented. Yes, she is in favor of spending our money on a college degree for an employee she put into position. Yet, I should say, she's in favor of spending our money on a college degree for an employee she put in position that requires a degree but does not have one. Mr. Erb, you're right. When Chief Polner retired, there was only one person in-house that applied for the job to replace him, and that was Doug Cole. And it was Doug Cole that already had his degree, so there wasn't any expenses there. It's a shame. You stated that Mrs. McKinney last week is best suited for the manager's degree, the manager's position, taking into consideration her past and present experience as an interim manager, even though she does not have the educational background to even apply for the position at this time. Well, Mr. Erb, with your MBA, you should know that that makes no sense. There's a lot to be said about common sense, and it seems we're starting to lack it on this council. You seem very proud of yourself for being the only member of council that voted no for the recent tax raise. Yet you don't hesitate to step in and take our money and squander it. If you feel so strong that Mrs. McKinney is the best person for the job, then fine. Lower the bar, do away with the college degree requirement, and save us a lot of time and money. Last week, Mrs. Allison used the phrase, closing the barn door after the cows are out. Well, this is a perfect example of doing just that. Making these appointments and then making us pay for degrees that neither one has. Mrs. Allison also said that the mayor has offered the olive branch to members of council, only to stick it up their proverbial butts. I feel that since so many good people of Monroeville have made it clear that they are unhappy with our present council and are going to make it known in the upcoming election, that the felonious four are doing the exact same thing to the taxpayers, sticking your poor decisions right up our proverbial butt. I would like to invite anyone to join the Romeos, that's us retired old guys eating out, at King's on some Wednesday morning. You remember us. We were falsely accused of plotting to overthrow certain individuals on the council. Well, now we need to break our rule and start talking politics and what action to take regarding the present council. Not to plot against anyone, but to find a way as soon as possible to take Monroeville out of the hands of the felonious four. I have two more things to say before I go. First, having worked with Steve Pasquarello for almost 20 years, the good times and the bad times, watching him come up through the ranks, his knowledge, his skills, his demeanor dealing with the public and the department, to me, shows he should be the next man in line for the job. And making him and paying him for him to obtain the bachelor's degree is a waste of taxpayers' money. I'll take a streetwise cop over a bookwise cop any day. I've been on the streets. I've been on the streets with many people, some with degrees, some without degrees. You don't need it to be out there. Steve is the right man for the job. It's just not the right time. And I congratulate him. Secondly, in working almost the same amount of years with Doug Cole, I think that come January, our new council will, as everyone suspects, offer him his job back as chief. But in my opinion, I think he's too good a person to take it away from Steve at that time and put Steve through the same embarrassment, heartache, and self-doubt that Doug has gone through, caused by the infamous 48-hour super judgment decision by our soon-to-be MIA acting or appointed manager. Thank you. Oh, pardon me. It'll only take a second. forgot to turn the page. Now I gotta find it. I'm sorry for this.
Take your time, Jim.
This is just the last sentence and a half. They talk about the large sinkhole in Florida. Hell, we have the largest sinkhole in the nation right here in Monroeville. And it's caused by the 4 people, soon to become memories, sitting in front of us tonight. Clarence, you're the only one I'm sorry to see leave the way you're going to be leaving. You're a friend. We've known each other for a long time. It's a shame.
If you haven't signed in, please do so and state your name and address for the record.
Kathy Hackworth, Saunders Station Road, Monroeville. I'm also going to read this as if Mr. Erb had not spoken. Hello, Mayor.
It is your time.
Yes. And I read fast, so it won't take long. I'm nervous again.
Slow down.
I'm sorry.
Sheriff's
I
fingers may
totally
not work
understand
that
that. Okay, I would first like to preface with saying I make no accusations, yet again. These are merely my perceptions of the recent actions of the majority of council. I would also like to state that I am honored to be a friend of the Cole family and therefore am biased towards some of these same actions, but at least I'm willing to own up to my bias, something that council majority seems unwilling or incapable of doing. I realize that a new chief police has been appointed and sworn in, and I'd be beating a dead horse to go into all that, except to say how strongly I object to a roundabout way this appointment has taken place, 48 hours, circumventing the posted requirements by interim manager and by council majority, and who certainly have given the appearance that they truly do not care what their constituents think or say. And that's sad, because they should care. They were voted in by those constituents to work for us and to work for Monroeville and to care. Instead of working for us, they've embarrassed our hometown and themselves with name-calling and by their airing of dirty laundry and personal issues during public meetings. They have insulted us by their total disregard of our opinions with a condescending attitude that they know best, and with their presumption that we are just going to lie down and do their bidding. They've installed a police chief who is not qualified for the posted position, but they want him so bad instead of Chief Cole, the excellent qualified chief we already had, that they're willing for us to pay for him to get the necessary degree. I don't get it. And now tonight, the plan is to appoint Ms. McKinney as municipal manager, another unqualified candidate lacking the required degree or experience. Last week, Mr. Erb implied that we who object to this appointment must be degree snobs, that he got over needing those degrees, and that Ms. McKinney has over 20 years of experience with Monroeville and knows the job. Nothing could be further from the truth, at least for me, as I do not have a degree. However, I am a stickler for rules, especially when some on council throw the rules out at us when it suits them, but are now circumventing them in every way. And the Home Rule Charter, which may not mention a degree, but for those members who refer to it ad nauseum when it suits their purpose but are ignoring it now, Article 7, Section 701 of that charter clearly states the municipal manager must have executive and administrative qualifications and, not or, at least 3 years' experience in governmental administration. Ms. McKinney's job has been administrative assistant, a clerical position, not executive, not administrative. Previous names for this type of position have been steno, Girl Friday, the more respectable secretary, and now administrative assistant. Not one thing this position has never been is governmental administrator. When a job lists requirements such as a degree under normal circumstances, the person chosen does not get the job with the degree pending. Would you go to a doctor who has a degree pending? Of course not. Common sense would stop you, but also the doctor would not be in the job without the degree in the first place. I've said it before, you get the degree, then you get the job. And if it's posted as a requirement, it's supposed to be in your resume. Sorry. For some reason, though, and appearing personal as well as political, the council majority seems to really want these people in these positions, even lacking the required qualifications, and they want to force all of us to finance the needed classes for their degrees. Withdrawing that right now by any member of council smacks of someone running for mayor. Again, I don't get it. Not personal, not political. I'm sorry, but if it looks like a duck, walks like a duck, talks like a duck, and starts to smell like a duck, it's got to be a duck.
Would anybody else like to address council, please? Why don't you come on up to the very front seat if you're gonna, that way you'll be next.
It's in the batter's circle there.
If you'll please sign in, state your name and address for the record, sir.
Len Young, 656 Cooper Road. I'm going to be very brief. Ordinance number 1 repealing ordinance 2204, restoring municipal managers as tax collector for all Act 511 taxes, other taxes, fees, assessments charged levied by the municipality of Monroeville. Now, you guys just passed an ordinance, number 2573, that sets the compensation for the tax collector for the next 4 years at $29,250. I don't understand. It seems like you're eliminating the tax collector by moving the responsibilities to the manager.
Mr. Manager, Mayor, may I?
Please.
The
Straighten the
ordinance
eye.
that we certified the $29,000 salary was for the real estate tax collection, which is an elected office. This, right here, 511 taxes, is an administrative head of the municipality of Monroeville.
Thank you for that, Bern. I was going to let him finish and then address that.
It's
but
an
you took
employee,
here, but-
it's an employee position. So it's two separate issues. There's additional pay that goes with this.
Okay, why can't the tax collector just collect all the taxes?
Again, Lynn, that's going to be something they'll vote on. We'll know that.
Okay. Sorry for the confusion.
No confusion. Thank you.
Len, that was always my question also.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Sir, if you'll please sign in and state your name
There's
and
a pen on the
address for the
side.
record. I think it's on the side there. There you go.
Okay. Name is Patrick Worms, 525 Arden Drive.
Again, on agenda items, sir, please.
My son's home from college. It's on spring break. We were watching this as we're eating dinner there. Trying to explain this to him. And trying to explain it to someone who's an Eagle Scout, who's followed the Scott Oath, the Scott Law, and done all this stuff and seeing what's going on here. I don't even know how to explain it. Okay? It does not look good, guys. It doesn't. Okay? The gentleman before earlier tonight read back, Bern, your statements from 2 or 4 years ago. It's exactly true. When we say we want to hire someone and you're going on a national search and you push for that, why not now? Why? What's the urgency right now? I will tell you, and I don't know any of you except for one person up there, and I don't know, Lynette, your qualifications are all, but I've hired many people in my career and I've fired people, I'm sorry to say. Your resume came across my desk based upon the requirements that I see here, you wouldn't even get an interview. Okay? I'm looking for the requirements saying 3 years experience, college degree, all this stuff. If you guys saw this resume come in 6 months ago when you hired the municipal manager, would you guys have hired him? Would you guys have interviewed him or her? I'll bet you wouldn't even looked at that resume a second time. What's the deal, guys? What's the urgency? Okay? And I mean, this is on all of you. Not just the 4, but the 3 that aren't making the meetings and everything. It's on all of you. And we're stuck paying the bill. Okay? This has got to stop. I would ask all of you to take the lead that Mr. Ravenstall has shown down in Pittsburgh and has got to the point of saying, I'm not going to appoint the next police chief. Okay? I know that there's a new person coming in. I'm going to let them pick the chief. Okay? Take a break. Because my concern is as soon as this happens, when the elections come around, a new organization's put in place, the same thing. We're going to be talking about the same thing here. Whether it's the police chief, whether it's the municipal manager, and the taxpayers are going to get stuck holding the bag. Okay? I can't say it enough, guys. Look at the resume. Look at the resume. Does it meet the qualifications? Monroeville is maybe the 3rd largest municipality in Allegheny County. Okay? 30-some thousand people. What type of qualifications do we want for our positions? They should have the bachelor's degree. That's a given. We should be looking for people with master's degree. Period. Master's degree should be the minimum for an organization this size. We're talking about budget dollars here, that someone who has experience managing millions and millions of dollars on a budget should be looking at. I plead with you. I plead with you all to come to some common sense and make the right decision for Monroeville taxpayers and for the organization to get together behind this and hire the right people for the right jobs. Okay? If you got to fire someone, put them on a performance plan. Show them the respect that they deserve. Okay? If we're going to fire people, let's do it the right way. Hey, it happens in business. It happens in life. People get hired and fired every day. Make the right decision. That's what I'm looking for out of this council. And I'll leave you with that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Once again, if you haven't, thank you for signing in. Please state your name and address. for
Linda
the record.
Gatos, 178 Westminster. I'm going to hope to make this night go a little bit better for everyone by what the gentleman just said past. My husband is an HR recruiter, and without the degree, the application would never even be looked at. That is a given. What he said is absolutely true. I've talked with him many, many times about it. So basically, instead of going through everything and us banging our heads, I'm just going to ask you, Lynette, would you be willing to step down and say, I will not accept the position because I do not have the requirements. I will stay as interim manager until you find someone. Can you make peace for everyone,
No,
please?
I'm not willing to do that.
Can I ask you why not? Why do you feel that you deserve the
Linda,
position?
you need to just direct at me. I'm sorry.
You will not step down? Well, thank you for at least hearing me.
If you haven't signed in, please do, sir, and
Yeah, I
state your name and
signed in.
address for the record.
Ralph Greco, 4804 Burke Drive, Monroeville. I don't know if I can ask this question, but Mr. Ramsey,
Directed toward me.
Mr. Ramsey said that Doug Colin told him a racist joke at one point. And I noticed in a paper on March 7, 2013, he rescinded that. Okay.
Yeah, but just stay on agenda items, if you would.
I don't think you want to go there.
Just agenda.
Well,
It's not an agenda item.
Is that a
Go ahead,
threat?
Ralph. No, it's not
Oh.
really on the agenda. We're talking about the ordinances and the resolution.
Something you don't want to hear.
There'll be public comments at the very end, and then that's when you can address any issue that you'd like to address.
There is one thing that really bothers me, okay? When Lynette was in her management,
The interim manager.
yeah, she did a nice job at that time, okay? Then why did they hire Mr. Solka? Why didn't they keep her if they felt that?
I have no answer for you on that, and again, try to stay on the agenda items. And
Well, I
Ralph,
think
and
that's
again, there'll be another opportunity for you at the very end of the meeting. You can come up and fire away. I apologize for that, but that's the order.
The only reason I said anything about this show, there's very little that anybody has, and I'm trying to think of how I can say it. When you discredit somebody, the only thing they have left is their pride. And that was the reason I wanted to mention this.
You can certainly come back up, Ralph. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, would anybody else like to address council? Agenda items only, please.
Georgiana Woodhull, 4560 Broadway Boulevard. You know, I stood up here and I read the minutes from January 13th, 1998, and also January 27th of 1998. I don't know if people weren't paying attention or were just disinterested. This has gone on. This is nothing new. This has occurred before. And, you know, I hope maybe Mr. Spillman will come up and maybe discuss the resignation of Mary Ann Naw and the manner in which this took place, and maybe help clarify things here this evening. And I would ask every one of you...
This is not an agenda item.
Okay, I would ask every one of you, without any further delay, to appoint Ms. McKinney as manager, because there is no one nationwide more qualified to take that position than her, because she has exemplary knowledge, exemplary knowledge and experience in municipal government. She was there in January of 1998. She's here now. She knows this municipality in and out. She knows what went on back there then and who was responsible, all through 20-some years. So I would ask you to not delay any further. It's ridiculous to go nationwide. You went nationwide twice, and look what happened. If there wasn't a problem with Mr. Bond's salary at $85,000 back then in 1998, I don't know what people are crying about now, because I think it's a savings with Lynette. And I would ask you to proceed without any further delay. Thank you.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, the floor is open for you to address council on agenda items. Seeing none, we'll move over to resolutions.
Mayor, can I don't know if this be a proper time, can I
Okay, well,
respond?
let's realize something. The public portion is over.
Yeah, but as a councilman, I'll allow him to speak if he has
Oh,
something to say.
he's not part of the public.
Could I go to
Well,
the podium?
well, wait a minute, you got another gentleman coming up.
Let's get the public done before
I thought we were done.
I'm going to speak on the public side of myself.
I agree with you. I was going to close that, and he wanted to
You
say
can talk,
something.
Steve, as soon as the public's done, you can make a statement.
I'm going to make my statement up there.
Okay.
Sir, if you would, please state your name and address for the record.
Sure. Michael Conklin, 1201 Northwestern Drive. I've been in and out of Monroeville for the last 5 years. I took a job in Tennessee. And coming back, it's hard to imagine what's going on with this council. First, I saw the school board go to crap, and now I'm watching the municipality go to crap. So you drove out a gentleman who I don't know, so I can't speak. I've known Lynette for years. I know Paul Hugues for years. Okay? If you want to put Lynette in as interim, that's fine. That's fine. She probably knows what to do because she's been administrative in that position for years. But to sit here and say you want to put her in full-time when there's an election coming up is ridiculous. The gentleman who walked out of here, who said about the credentials on a resume, you should live by that. You know, times are changed. It used to be a time that U.S. Steel paid for your education when you worked there. They don't do that anymore. Doesn't mean just because it was past practice it has to hold true today. I get upset because the decisions that were made by this board, and I'm not going to say the Fantastic Four or anything like that, you never gave the people a reason why you did what you did. And you wonder why Monroeville looks like a bunch of idiots. It doesn't take the media to make us look foolish. They just need to sit in here for a night. You know, what was the reason? You guys don't even come out and say anything. What you read in the paper and hear in the media and hear by rumors is what you got. And you wonder why everybody's mad. So I have a horse vested in this because I'm back. I'm moving back to the area. And that's all I got to say. It's just ridiculous how you guys are going. As everybody said, take a deep breath, because I'm getting mad right now. Take a deep breath. You got an election coming up. If the people want Lynette in, she'll get in. But why waste more money by giving all these severance packages and things like that? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Very good, sir. Would anybody else, before I close the public?
Stevie.
Yes, I'd like to.
Okay, Steve.
I guess I have to go to the podium to address this. I'm Steve Duncan. I live at 1437 James Street. I know this is supposed to be agenda items only, but there were 3 people that came up and made the comment that I'd like to address now. I've been criticized by some for not attending the January 30th executive session. I've been here 14 months. I've missed 1 meeting, and I've stated the reason why I did not attend that meeting. I did attend the executive session last Thursday. The subject I was told not to discuss. During the meeting, I witnessed the out-of-control behavior of Mrs. Drumhiller, the profanity, the threats and accusations. It was unreal. I actually felt a little intimidated, and I'm much bigger than you. I don't know why I felt intimidated, but I did. In order to diffuse this situation, I and other members of council had to walk out of the meeting. Again, I didn't get a chance to represent my people. I'm requesting of this council that all executive meetings be held in council's chambers, not in that little room back there with limited exits. And I will not stand for that type of badgering by any member of this council again.
Two points of, and I guess it would be falling under point of information, and that was that because we did close Thursday night's meeting to break for executive session, I noticed that it did not come up in any order yet to, as you usually would. I'm not sure what order you would put that in. If you wanted to address that now, that what the intention of that executive session was, I would get to my point number 2.
You have the floor.
Well, in advance to you doing that, council did meet in executive session on Thursday. And the point that, in light of what we can tell under law, by law to the public and share from executive session content, there was a police presentation. And the only point I want to bring out is that in what 4 councils of member made a point of knowing early this year, we now have, from that executive session, the information to bring all 7 members of council up to date, and in fact, supporting evidence so that all 7 members truly had supporting evidence that led to the decision in January of this year for then Manager Silka to resign. And I want the public to understand that when you deal with who was informed, now that all 7 members had a chance to not only be informed, but have supporting evidence, I would say that any of the questions that were limited to 4 can now be addressed to all 7. I'm not sure whether or not the balance of 3 would answer questions any differently. You will have to make that decision in your interaction to the other 3 members of council, but I want everybody to be clear on the fact that we all 7 do know. And you had better believe that I was angry, pretty much the same way lots of people have been angry and expressed their anger, and that's the format to do it. And you had better believe that I still am. Thank you.
Well, at any rate, though, let's move over to council. Before I go to resolutions, is there any other comments?
I would just like.
Yeah, there is.
What is it that you instructed us at that meeting to not discuss anything in that meeting?
Absolutely, I did.
And
Okay, you understand, there's an agreement in place. Let's stop this right now, okay? I don't want to hear any more about Mr. Silka. I don't want to hear any more about that executive session at this public forum. I think you all understand that from what I said last week.
Excuse me, a question. I did not speak on the subject.
I know you didn't.
No, you didn't.
You didn't.
I spoke on the manner and the way that that meeting was handled. It was out of control.
I understand that.
We're going to go to resolutions. Lynette, if you would.
Yes, Mayor. The first resolution is a resolution adopting the HCR Manor Care Sewage Planning Module. As we discussed last Thursday, this is basically a housekeeping item. If you have any questions, Director Hugus can answer those.
Council, any further discussions to Mr. Hugus? Seeing none, motion on the floor.
Motion to approve as sponsored by Director Hugus.
Second.
Roll call, Sharon, please.
Mr. Erb?
Yes.
Dr. Griesbach?
Aye.
Mrs. Drumheller?
Aye.
Mr. Johns?
Aye.
Mrs. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
Aye.
Mr. Ramsey?
Aye.
Lynette, please.
Second resolution is a resolution advertising for bids for the 2013 road resurfacing program for the attached list of roadways throughout the municipality of Monroeville.
Again, this was discussed at length at our work session, so any further discussion?
I do have a question.
Please.
Because I'm not sure that we discussed this on Thursday, or I missed it if we did. But how did you come up with the roads? And I guess the reason that I ask is that you have, I think, 2 or 3 different forms of resurfacing that are mentioned in here. And I know when we start posting, it'll all say paving, and it'll be the second time since I've been in office that my street gets what we term as paving. And it will be in the last probably 10 years, the third, maybe 4th time. And so I'm a little confused how we came up with the list and what exactly these different levels of resurfacing are.
There was 3 different methodologies of that's why it's called resurfacing and not paving, because we've been trying to institute alternative ways of extending the money that we have with the road surfaces that we have to treat. When a signage is put up, they are generic in nature. They do say paving. We'll make those changes this year so it does not state paving for everything, because some of the methodology is a road is paved within the next 2 to 3 years after it's paved. We do a fog seal, which extends the life of that paving about 5 years at the tail end of it. So there are some methodology differences, and again, the program is developed. I had given all of you a memorandum a couple years ago of how we rate the roads and the methodology we use to get to the point we're at. So there's various ways that we're doing the treatment of the roads.
And one other question, because I'm sure that all of us will receive questions about roads that don't get paved. How do we address those and speak to those, or do we simply direct them to you?
We've received several comments at our office about the same thing. Several people have come in and asked. We go through how we view the roads and how we rate them, and the roads are based on a rating system, on a priority list that we go through, and most people are typically okay with, once we're done explaining to them what we're doing and the amount of roads that we have to do and the amount of money we have to spend. We're trying to do more roadway surface with less money.
Okay.
Any other questions, council?
Yeah, Paul, and every road is, even the ones that aren't on here, is every road in Monroeville rated? Does every road have a PASER score and a priority?
We have an ongoing spreadsheet of all the roadways. If a roadway that's just been recently paved, it's not rated just because it was recently done. But there's a number that we start at to use as a benchmark and work ourselves backwards to get to where we're at.
It's usually the PASER score around 4 or less is usually when we act.
This year, 5 was the cutoff, so anything below a 5 is where we're at. Anything with a 4. Okay.
Questions?
Any other questions or comments? Motion?
Move to approve.
Second?
What was the second?
Oh, okay. Roll call,
Mr.
Sharon,
Johns was
please.
the second?
Johns.
Okay.
Mr. Johns.
Oh, Duncan, sorry, thank you.
Mr.
Oh, I'm
Duncan?
sorry.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Mr. Ramsey?
I don't have anything on it.
Approving
Huh?
we're approving the number 2.
Number 2?
Resolution.
Okay. Yes.
Mr. Duncan?
Yes.
Mrs. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Johns?
Aye.
Mrs. Drumheller?
Aye.
Dr. Griesbach?
Aye.
Mr. Erb?
Yes.
Lynette, please.
Yes, the third resolution is a resolution authorizing the distribution of grant funds for the Monroeville Independence festivities. As I reported on Thursday, they were going to turn in their expenses, which they did. They're attached to the resolution packet. And this grant will be for $10,000. as council remembers, the other $10,000 was obtained by the convention, or from the Convention Visitors Bureau.
Motion on the floor?
Make a motion, we approve it.
Second.
Questions or comments? Roll call, Sharon, please.
Mr. Erb?
Yes.
Dr. Griesbach?
Aye.
Mrs. Drumheller?
Aye.
Mr. Johns?
Aye.
Mrs. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
Aye.
Mr. Ramsey?
Aye.
Lynette, please.
Fourth resolution is a resolution authorizing the distribution of grant funds for the Memorial Day Parade. The same packet for Memorial Day Parade is actually attached to the resolution with their expenses, and this grant will be for $3,200.
Motion on the floor?
Move to approve?
Second.
Questions or comments? Roll call, Sharon, please.
Mr. Ramsey?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
Aye.
Mrs. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Johns?
Aye.
Mrs. Drumheller?
Aye.
Dr. Griesbach?
Aye.
Mr. Erb?
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Dice, please.
Mr. Mayor?
She needs a break.
Oh, you need a break?
Break, 5 minutes?
Oh, sure. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a 5-minute break. I apologize. I didn't catch that,
That's
Sharon.
okay.